establishment is coming for the minds of your children with mental health programs that, well, are a little bit controversial, to put it mildly. And joining us today on the Liberty Report here on Patriot TV is the great Dr. Peter Breggin. He is a psychiatrist trained at Harvard University. He's a legal expert. He's testified in courts all over the country on these very issues. He's a therapist. He's the author of 70 scientific publications and over 20 books. He's often called the conscience of psychiatry for the incredible work he's been doing over a period of many decades to stop some of this quackery masquerading as medicine, things like lobotomies, which, we all kind of look back and like, I can't believe they did that. Well, it was Dr. Peter Breggin who really took on the establishment on this issue. He also tried to get him to stop electrocuting people under the guise of therapy, although wasn't quite as successful there, unfortunately. He's got a relatively new book, an incredible bestseller, COVID-19 and the Global Predators, We Are the Prey. If you don't have a copy of that in your library, you need one. And he's become a friend over the last few years. He is a superhero in my book. Dr. Peter Breggin, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. We see the CDC data. 1/3 of the young girls now are seriously considering suicide. 1 in 10 actually apparently have tried to commit suicide. And the government is responding by throwing all kinds of stuff at it: social emotional learning, more drugs, more counseling, more different government programs. What are your thoughts about what's happening to the young people in the schools? And are these alleged solutions actually helpful?
All psychiatrically related solutions have no spiritual content, do not see the individual as having free will, do not see values as critical to how we lead our lives. They really strip away all the basic values that we hold. I see people who have been in family therapy for years who have never discussed whether they loved each other or what their responsibility was for each other. It all becomes code words and psychiatric diagnoses that are fundamentally accusations. I accuse you of being bipolar. At the heart of it is the power of the mental health and psychiatric establishment. It's entirely progressive in nature. It denies the critical importance of family life. In every case I've seen with a young person, the most valuable thing that you can help that young person with is relationships with parents before the schools actually get hold of them too much and the peers get hold of them. So everything that is called a psychiatric problem with children is actually some sort of a social dysfunction that may have some origins in the family, that certainly has some origins as well in school. And it is all about helping a child grow. With small children, I might see a child once and get a sense of how they're relating to their parents, not alone, because I don't want the child thinking I'm the authority. I want them thinking the parent's the authority. However, in child psychiatry, it's the reverse. You go to the psychiatrist, he's the authority, especially a child psychiatrist is going to prescribe drugs. So the almighty authority comes in with materialistic solutions that I know that your brain is defective and I have something that will make your brain better. They may be given bizarre concepts like you're a Mercedes, really, but your brakes don't work, or something like that make the child demoralized, essentially. Or you have ADD, which is just a catch-all phrase for selling stimulant drugs to children, which should be illegal. Especially if you go back and you look at the really original diagnoses, but it's still in there. The entire diagnosis of ADHD were things that teachers had problems with. Child staring out the window, child's talking out of turn, child that won't stand in line, things parents never even think about as an issue in a reasonably run family with reasonable dinner times. And it was the whole selling point was to declare the child abnormal enough so the teacher wasn't responsible and could drug the child. And the effect of the drug was always, whatever drug it is, eventually it makes people apathetic. Whether you're shooting cocaine or whether you're taking psychiatric drugs, smoking dope, all the neurotoxins that come into our brains eventually make us more docile, less resistant to authority. So mental health is actually the cutting edge, or one of the major cutting edges of social control and of taking kids away from becoming mature adults.
Yeah, it's so profound what you're saying, and I would encourage people, if you didn't process all that, go back and watch it again. I think you're talking about something that is so critical here, because we know, and you expose this masterfully in your book on the global predators, there is an agenda to control humanity. There is an agenda to take away our freedom, and psychiatry seems to be playing a big role in that. I want to turn to a related subject that you just recently addressed in your excellent Substack. By the way, folks, if you are not signed up yet for the Breggin's Substacks, you need to get it. It's called Breggin Alerts, Exposing Global Predators. You can find it at gingerbreggin.substack.com. There is so much good stuff on there. You need to be signed up. But you put out a piece just a couple of weeks ago on sex globalism and the corruption of childhood from Alfred Kinsey to the United Nations. This is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I know we had our mutual friend, Dr. Judith, who was exposing these people at Liberty University. Do you think all this sex mania that the UN and the Alfred Kinseys of the world have pushed into the schools has contributed to this kind of mental health crisis, for lack of a better term, that our children are facing, where they're all anxious and they're all depressed and all the rest of it?
Well, it absolutely is. I mean, all these things, Kinsey and Playboy and all the sexual revolutions supported by the CIA. So there you got a very, very important connection. It was such a ghoulish connection that Kinsey was studying the sexual responses of lobotomized people with federal funding in a major New York State hospital, psychiatric hospital. Ghoulish kinds of things to do to human beings. And I read the Kinsey report as a very young man. I think it would have been in junior high school, and it was coming through the Book of the Month Club, as I recall, and that was done with federal funding again, I do believe, or it just never could have been so many people getting it in their homes in America of the 1940s and 50s. It's a concerted effort to demoralize the United States of America. And let me give a 30-second history so that people don't think this is nutty. Up until our Constitution and Bill of Rights, there was no nation in the world based on the power of the people, the freedom of the people, period. It was the first nation built on the Judeo-Christian God in terms of freedom and respect of the individual human beings. There were other empires, but they were not based on freedom. And America was immediately fought, not just by the British Empire, but by a number of separate organizations that really didn't want them to be there. The French just wanted to help the U.S. to get rid of the British. And by 1812, the British are invading us again and getting to Washington, D.C. So ever since 1776, we have been the target of the entire global empirical system. There were probably a dozen or more empires back in 1776. My God, there was an Islamic empire back then and way before. So it is nothing new for the United States to be on the list, to be completely demoralized. But now we are being demoralized in so many areas with Chinese communist money and influence, and our own deep state. And that's one of the things that Elon is finding out for us, is the funding of actually immoral assaults on America through the deep state. And the Department of Education, I had my first job after I finished my training and left the National Institute of Mental Health. So that would have been my first job. I worked for NEA. I wanted to learn about maybe how therapy could be done in groups. And I lasted there like 3 days on the job because we went right into doing groups in a wonderful, beautiful place in Maine. And I saw that the National Education Association, and this would be 1966, in its group movement was trying to destroy the individual. Mm. And I actually stood up in the groups where I was the assistant and confronted the leader about why was he doing this. They fired me that day.
Oh, wow. Surprise.
And I was so liberated because I wanted to be a therapist, but I thought it didn't do enough good. But, I had to be finding ways to really develop broad therapy exposure for people. And having absolutely no money and loving to do therapy, I just became a therapist and I've been doing it ever since. So they fired me into what I wanted to do, which is a good thing, folks. If you stand up for yourself and you get fired, as horrible as it is, fortunately for me, it started early. I had clear enough, but some of these poor docs, of course, nowadays, they stand up and they're not prepared at age 40 or 50 to stand up for themselves. Yeah. But at any rate, the whole thrust of mental health has always been progressive. It's always been destructive.
Yep, it's really sad, and I'm so glad that you are sounding the alarm on this, and that you have been. I mean, you wrote books about the dangers of Prozac. You've been exposing some of the stuff with ADD. As the father of 5 boys, I could tell you at least 3 of them. If I were to take them to a psychiatrist, they'd say, "Wow, they're really bouncy. Maybe we need to put them on amphetamines." And no, thank you. They're bouncy boys. It's just who God made them to be, and we as parents will handle that. Dr. Breggin, when we get back on the other side, I want to talk a little bit about these mRNA concoctions. Your groundbreaking book on this is really important, and I think we were hoping for some major developments with the new administration, but there's still quite a bit left to be done. So when we get back on the other side of this break, we'll hop into the mRNA discussion, talk a little bit about Robert F. Kennedy, our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, and much more. So folks, stay right there. We'll be right back here on the Liberty Report on Patriot TV.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs. Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for US-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
If I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep, it's filling up more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Welcome back to the Liberty Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks so much for staying with us over the break, folks. We do hope that you'll get over to patriot.tv and sign up to be a Patriot Defender member. You'll get access to some of the exclusive content we're putting out. Plus, you're going to get great deals from some of our sponsors. So get over to patriot.tv/Newman or use that promo code Newman when you sign up. You're going to get a 10% discount and a lot of amazing stuff there for you. Plus, you get to partner with us as we work to deliver the truth to Americans across the country. People like General Flynn and yours truly and our wonderful guests and so many others that are part of this network. Our guest today is Dr. Peter Breggin. We're holding him over for another segment, which I know is unusual, but he's got so much to say in so many different areas. Dr. Breggin, your phenomenal book about the global predators, you really get into the COVID injections, the Operation Warp Speed, the international movement that brought all this about. And I know you and I talked about this. We were both pretty hopeful that Robert F. Kennedy was going to come in and some big changes were going to be happening on several of these fronts. And yet now we see this op-ed in Fox News that a lot of people are raising red flags about it. It seems to be, maybe not 100% pro-vax, but certainly moving in that direction. What have you seen with Robert F. Kennedy? What do you think is going on with that, and what should our viewers know?
Well, I'm very, very concerned. Robert gave my book the best imaginable promotional statement about how great it was, and even while his book was coming out, in terms of going and looking at the criminal conspiracy behind COVID. And I'm very fond of him, and it's very hard for me to even think of where to go with this. But from the opening salvo in the Senate, he has been backing off from what he has stated to be his beliefs in mental health. Picking up on the previous segment, he was challenged on antidepressants causing violence. And he said, I just say we need more research on it. It's not determined yet. It was determined definitively at least by 1994, 5, and 6. The literature showed the enormous increase in violence on SSRIs compared to all other drugs except one anti-smoking drug, which had a similar effect. I was an expert in numerous school shootings that involved the SSRIs. We knew all this a long time ago. Bobby, I'm sure, knew this a long time ago. And Bobby's been good to me. He in other ways too. And this literally makes me stutter because it's very, very difficult. So recently, two good things, well, at least one good thing. Trump did put a mandate on the take the mandates off of the mRNA drugs. And I thought that was a good thing. But he has not yet faced up to it. It may be that Trump is the real problem who is telling Bobby to cool it about this stuff. Because Trump has never stood up on the issue of Operation Warp Speed and said, folks, I was fooled completely. I thought it was a medical thing. It was actually put on by the Department of Defense. That information was withheld from me. I'm hoping someday that will be the truth and he will say that. It got so out of hand and they made me think I was the big deal behind Operation Warp Speed. I didn't know that it was being formally planned in 2010 with Fauci, with Bill Gates, with Klaus Schwab. I didn't know these guys were talking about genetic vaccines way back then and how they were going to rush them through and all the billionaires were going to support this. So I think that there's a crux of a problem there. Bobby canceled a study of vaccines that was from the era of the previous, president. And I thought, gee, this is good. What did he do? He canceled a COVID vaccine. But it turned out that the COVID vaccine that he canceled was a retrovirus, not an mRNA. And it was being compared to an mRNA vaccine in the hope it would replace it. So that was almost like a good go-ahead flag to the mRNA vaccine. They weren't going to challenge it with the other vaccine. The other vaccine sucked as well. It should have been. It should have been taken down. 2, it didn't even have a control group except the mRNA. That's the old thing that all these vaccines get passed by comparing them to each other instead of to a harmless placebo.
Yep. And they got all the weird ingredients. They've got the aluminum, they got the adjuvants, they got the mercury, and look, a similar results. And nobody.
Don't worry about it. It's no worse than poison, the other poison. Right. It's really, they compare poison to poison when they approve these vaccines. So that was an ambivalent thing too. And now with the breaking news that on the basis of one death from a child with no report on the child, we've heard news that he was a sick child, but no official report on who the child was, supposedly an unvaccinated child, one death in Texas from measles, which we're not allowed to investigate and discover. Bobby Kennedy is now 100% practically for measles. In his own statement, this is Bobby's own statement, he does say that we had practically eradicated measles before it disappeared, before we started the vaccines. But then he's got another statement that we were getting 400 deaths a year on average before the measles vaccine. Makes no sense at all. He's giving it over to the CDC to ramp up HHS, ASPR is a part of HHS, to look into really the importance of these vaccines and getting them out because they do help, and measles has such terrible side effects. Very, very weak. I happened to have a paper out that I just did. We started it the year before COVID and published it during COVID on the MMR vaccines. And Bobby is now making believe that all the data that was coming out and being suppressed about the measles vaccine causing serious neurological disorders, he's not talking about that. On the other hand, Bobby did say that the measles vaccine caused autism, but it doesn't. That's another bad, highly remunerative position to take because there's huge amount of money trying to argue that the vaccine, that the MMR causes autism. Autism isn't caused by any known chemical or any known trauma except child rearing, as far as we know. And the child rearing folks don't want that coming out. And it's very much against NIMH policy. Everything's biochemical. And Bobby got on that train when in fact, what the MMR vaccine does is it just directly causes brain injury. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you get brain injury, you may look like you're an autistic kid, i.e. it may look like you can't relate to another human being. Autism is the inability to really engage another human being and communicate with them. You can get some of that with a brain injury, but it's a brain injury. It's not autism. It's a frank brain. So I think Bobby's very confused about where the money is coming from and what he's supposed to do. The measles vaccine has never been adequately studied for safety. I point out in my article that I don't think I sent to you. I did not send to you, but I will give you a follow-up of the article. That there were all kinds of problems coming up with the vaccine. The government shut it down. That's the truth. They shut down the criticism. That's the truth of the matter. It's one more especially dangerous vaccine, Bobby, and it doesn't cause autism. This is a little subtle, so follow this for a minute. The drug companies love the idea that people are arguing that the MMR vaccine causes autism. So that if you go and you read a pediatric textbook, it doesn't say that the MMR vaccine causes brain damage, epilepsy, seizures, other problems, encephalopathy, a general deterioration of the brain, all of which has been documented in unknown numbers. It says the MMR does not cause autism. That's how they use it. The drug companies like it. So
Yeah.
I'm really just concerned about the whole thing with Bobby. I deeply appreciate what he's done for me. I deeply appreciate the somewhat of relationship that we've had over the years. I want Bobby to become Bobby again.
Yeah.
And I get Trump off his back is the problem. I think this is probably ultimately what is being shoved on him by Trump. Shut up about autism, which is a good idea, but shut up about brain damage? No. Shut up about seizures? No. Point out that these things that happen traumatically right after the inoculation, and that's not autism. Autism is a slowly evolving developmental disorder. It's not a traumatic disorder like these kids are getting. So get it straightened out. It's a bit of a hodgepodge. I hope this hasn't been too complicated.
No, it's brilliant, and I appreciate you sharing that, Dr. Breggin. I'm kind of in a similar position. I really like Bobby. I've interviewed him before. I've so appreciated so much of what he said. I loved having him on the program and the things he said, but definitely concerned about what we've seen over the first week, and I hope we'll see some improvement. Dr. Breggin, we've got about a minute left before we've got to cut the show. I want to talk just for a moment about your book. This is an incredible book, folks. If you don't have it, you need it. It's called COVID-19 and the Global Predators. We Are the Prey. Whenever I have some question about the COVID, the vaccine, the operation, I just go into this book here. It's got an incredible index. It is such a valuable reference, folks. So if you don't have this, you need it. It's got an introduction by Dr. Peter McCullough and also Dr. Zev Zelenko. It's just a really, really valuable tool. And Dr. Breggin, your Substack is great. gingerbreggin.substack.com. How else can people follow your work? I know you have a show that airs on America Out Loud. We've got about 30 seconds. What's the best way for people to follow your work?
Well, you can go to Breggin.com, and that will give you a good coverage off our main website. But you can follow the radio shows real simply on what's the biggest Substack for shows? I forget. Podbean. You go to Podbean, and they have just Peter Breggin. Just ask for the Dr. Peter Breggin Hour on Podbean, and it will give you all my shows back to 2010. It's quite an amazing resource. But the website is very good, and the Substack is very good.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Breggin, thank you for all the work you're doing. I know we did 2 segments today, so thank you for spending some time with us today. We appreciate it more than you know. I hope we can talk to you again very soon, and God bless you, sir.
And God bless you. You are one of the great men of our time.
Oh, thank you so much. The feeling is mutual. So thank you, Dr. Breggin. I so appreciate all that you do, and we'll talk to you again soon. Folks, we're out of time for today, but I want to thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. I do want to encourage you one more time, get a copy of this book. It's really, really valuable. Go sign up for the Substacks. You're going to get information right in your inbox on some of the most important issues of the day that you're not going to find anywhere else. And stay tuned here on Patriot TV. Until next time, I'm Alex Newman. God bless you all.